work to do. So, and a lot of times what I've seen is that the same people in the leadership roles, just like in Gambia, we bring that same mentality here, and everybody's saying, I'm busy, and they can't take on any roles. Those are things that needs changing. So again, I commend the leadership for the work that they do. At the same time, I'm asking the rest of us to step in when the need arises, especially when you get asked. Because otherwise, the people who started this are gonna keep on, and they're gonna get tired because they are also like busy. They're just giving their times and their resources and their brilliant ideas to help us all grow. It's important that we support that by also engaging and helping and supporting and adding our talents to the mix. Talking about that, again, the strength in our numbers can only be, we all had those phrases, there are strength in numbers, and they don't happen for nothing. If we do not come together and do the needful, it's just going to, I almost wanted to say the Gambian community is the largest African community in this Wisconsin here. But what do we have to show off for it? Absolutely nothing. We don't. All we can show off is we elected Samba. Yeah. That's it. that's what we can say. Yeah. That's what we can say. We need to do more than that. We need to do more than that. We should, our strength is not just to gather and party. But we need to do more. And the word that there's strength in numbers, thank you, Sajo. There's strength in numbers is not just a phrase. It's what we do, what we come up with, what things that we can show up for that we have accomplished. And we've yet to accomplish anything at this point. So we need to do more on that space. The mentorship program is something I'm truly excited about because our community, mashallah, we have so many young kids here, and these kids, we need to get them busy because we live in a different country, different culture, different environment, and we need to teach them about who we are, where we come from, and help them understand their role in this community, in this society, in this country. They have bigger fish to fry. We may be limited because we came, but our kids should not be limited in any ways. Even us, we have so much more to play with, you know? And the more we come together and help our kids, the better this is gonna be for all of us in the future. I was talking with my daughter as I'm prepping for this, and I said, our kids are our future, and then she said, no, we are the present and we are the future. And I said, oh, okay. So I thought we are the present and you guys are the future, but if you say you're both, then hey, let it be. But again, we need to support that, we need to nurture that, and we need to guide them in a way that they can thrive and they can succeed, because the potential is there. And it takes a village, just like where we come from, that's what they said, and it is very true. So this mentorship shares that value, those visions, that truly it takes a village. And I'm glad that you guys are taking the lead on this to bring that to our community. So I thank you for all that you're doing. And again, thank you for having me here, and I pass the baton to Samba, or I'll wait for the DJ or the MC to say what. Okay.
Actually, Mr. Chair, with your kind permission, I must apologize to Madam Aissatou Cisse. I should have mentioned her name, but you know, that's human beings. Perfection and generosity is always a long-term goal. So that's my deficit in that, and I know Madam will definitely forgive me for that. I'm sorry. So Madam Aissatou will be giving the vote of thanks. So this is the danger when you sit among the people of knowledgeable, who have the knowledge, you always speak less and you can make easily mistakes. All right. So Madam, please forgive me. All right.
Thank you so much, Ajafatu Sise, for that wonderful speech that you have given us here today. If you have not started listening, you are about to start listening, or try to start to listen, because the next person that's going to talk to us, it's going to be Mrs. Madam Sina Jallo. She's going to talk to us about the role of parents in the lives of their kids. Before we give the microphone to Sina, I'll just briefly summarize what Ajifatu has said. She has talked about the need for us to collaborate and the need for us to have the mentorship program started, as well as having other volunteers to be able to take the mentorship from those of us who are already in the leadership. Eventually, we get tired. If people are not tired, I'm one of those who is definitely tired. I have been in associations all my life, right from primary school up to today. So those of you who are behind, my age mates at the back, if you have not been listening, start listening now. Thank you so much again once more, Fatu, for that wonderful speech. And I will now call on Mrs. Madam Sina Jallo to talk to us about the importance of parents' role in the life of their kids. Kids at the back, can we ask you to listen to this speech? It's meant for those of us here today. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Sheena. I'm with CSA. I do believe that it takes a village to raise the children of the world today, especially with all the issues that we're dealing with right now, with the war, the bullying, drugs, alcohol, you name it, it's there. And if we're not making those connections, then sometimes our children can fall short or astray. So I've been working in the education field for over 23 years with families and children. Yes, it's a passion of mine. I lost my father when I was very young, and it was people that connected with my mother and the community that helped us and kept us pushing. So I just pay it forward. I'm a strong advocate for minorities and children. So parent involvement in education is a vital essential to help our children thrive and succeed. Without us, I won't say that they'll fail, because many of us are resilient and might go into that survival mode, but why not when we can lay the footprint for them to follow? They are the present and they are the future. So it's widely recognized that the more involved parents are in their children's education, the better the students will perform in school and later in life. The more involved you are with your children, you'll see them either taking on trades, going to college, or just being more stable, and like I said, and not straying. It's really hard seeing children suffer, whereas it'd be getting lost, getting involved in, I would say, street life. And we do the best that we can and what we know how. But as we learn, I feel that we can do more. So one piece is opening communication with teachers and staff and interacting with them. We just don't send our children into the buildings and let others teach. We are our children's first teacher. So we really need to take that open communication with the teacher and the staff that our children are engaging with. My voice might tremble a little bit because, as I say, this is a passion of mine and I worry at all times, and I'm a true advocate for children. but we need to stay informed with the policy changes. So much has been changed within the schools. It might not even go along with the culture or our morals ourselves, but if we're not aware of them, then how can we speak on it, or how can we bring forth change? Also being aware of the curriculum, newsletters, volunteer events, like again, CC say, show up. You know, there have been many events that I go to, and it saddens me to see a child come up on Parent Day, and there's no parent there to recognize them. So, I mean, let's not get too busy that we can't forget what's the most important, which is family. So keep track of your children's academics. Yes, we get those quarterly report cards that come out, but by then it's kind of not too late, but we can help shift them and help them. Like they have those portals, learn about them. Save your passwords. It's hard for me to remember my password. I change it often, but they have portals that you can go in and you can track your children. If they're doing their assignments, if the assignments are missing, like go in, check with the teacher, check with your children. Is that something that I can do to help you? Or check with the teachers. Is that something that I can do? Do you have, if you have questions, ask questions. There is no dumb question. You know, and don't feel like, oh, Mo, I didn't know this. It is, we won't know it if we don't ask or if we don't learn about it. So, back a little bit. Never forget, you are your child's first and most important teacher. So I say it starts with our babies from birth to 8. From birth to 8. Continue to talk to them, sing to them, play with them, ask questions, just showing that affection and love. And so sometimes I feel though, we get our baby, you know, we have our naming ceremonies. There's so much going on. There's that celebration of that infant or that celebration of that toddler. But as they get older, we like push them so quickly for independence. Go play or go do this. Like we have to remember to slow down and make time for that connection. And especially our preteens and our teens and our younger adults who become a little bit more vocal if given the opportunity. And I know sometimes we can take that authoritative mode, whereas we might forget to listen for understanding or being a little bit more open. Just been a little bit more open. So I just push, just let them know you love them. I know we love our children and we all want our children to do better than what we are doing. But like, just letting them know you love them, play with them, hug them, say I love you, smile, or just be there, you know, just being there. Especially the teens and the older adults. You know, sometimes I feel we'll say, hey, this is the way it is, and that is it. Whereas they have so much to offer us, and we all can learn from each other. So, yes. I say, let's not get too occupied and just stay focused. And like I said, the children are our future, and yeah, they need us. So I'm gonna stop there. And we can go.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Jallow, for that wonderful speech. As we are talking, a lot of things ran through my mind. There are a lot of us who are adults here. I'm talking to the kids at the back. A lot of us grew with our parents, but it was like they were not there because we didn't have the time that you people have with your parents today. So those of us who are parents here spend a lot of time with your kids. She also went on to emphasize the need for us to actually look at our kids' assignment. It's not enough to make sure that you drop your kid at school and pick them up. Make sure you're following up on their academic progress. Make sure that you are not only looking at the report, you can also track the assignments that they are supposed to do. I think a lot of us here as Gambians have got a lot of resources within ourselves to be able to ask ourselves questions and get those answers. Some of us didn't grow with our parents. We lost them at a very early age. Those of you who have them today, reconnect with them, and enjoy them while you have them. There's going to be a time they won't be there for you. Thank you so much for that wonderful speech. And after that, we will give the floor to our Honorable Speaker, who is our guest speaker of the night today, Honorable Samba Balde. Thank you.
Hello. All right. So good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I thought I would stand. I basically am more comfortable standing than sitting next to Fadu Sise, Aja Fadu Sise, and then start talking. But when I get the invitation, even before I get to the invitation, I just want to say how much I agree with Mr. Independence Day. Mr. Jaju, Sena Fatu, and everybody who said something before I rose to say a few things. So when Fofana reached out to me and said, Sambu, we want you to come to our independence celebration and say something. I was wondering, what will I say? What should I prepare myself to share with people here? I also had some conversations with people prior to getting here. Some of those conversations were centered around, why is it that in the Gambia we have a national anthem but no pledge of allegiance? Does that have any impact in who we are or not? The two serve different purposes. But why is it that we don't have one in Gambia? The other conversation I had with people was that should I focus on the current situation in Gambia and speak politically, or speak to the principle of why I was invited here, which is leadership and service. That's what they wanted me to talk about. I can do both. I can speak politics and speak leadership and service. I don't want to be in trouble. But anyway, I'll try. As a leader myself in the community, before I get into even my talking points, I just want to re-echo particularly what Fatu said about leadership and participation in the things that we do as a community. Each and every one of us here is successful in our own merits, and nobody individual is responsible for the other person's success. The challenge that we are faced with, either as Gambians or Africans or black people, is how we aggregate those individual success and be successful as a community. Fadu also alluded to the fact that we have the highest number of immigrants in the state of Wisconsin, and I want to believe that is a factual statement. But when can we show off in terms of those numbers? The smallest population of a set of people in the whole world are the Jewish community. But they are the most impactful people in the whole world. Why is that? We've all been to school. Many of us have been to a formal, whether it is the Arabic school, the Western education or something, but we've sat at a place where we are educated about something, and at the end of the day, an exam was conducted. You cannot tell the results by the skin color. It's by our intellect that you tell the results. So it's not that we are not smart, we are not intelligent, we cannot do it. It's just the fact that we want to do it for ourselves alone. How do we come together? How do we come together and address some of these challenges? in a world that is faced with so many challenges, leadership is very, very important. And leadership does not mean Samba, as an elected state representative, must override everybody and whatever he says is what leadership is about. Leadership is about listening to people. Leadership is about knowing your own people that you are representing. Leadership is being able to be at the table and have a conversation, particularly with the people that you claim to represent. Some of the challenges that we are faced with, particularly in the Gambia, but Africa in general, is lack of that conversation, that honest conversation. The other part of that is really our willingness to follow leadership. Following leadership does not mean you're not challenge leadership. A very good example of following leadership is our next door neighbor, Senegal, for example. We are the same people. We are all Senegambian. The Wolof, the Mandingo, the Fulani, the Jola, whatever you find in Senegal is what you find in the Gambia. But to a certain extent, all of us, when we sit down and talk about our situations in the region of Gambia and Senegal, all of us agree that Senegal is doing much better than we are doing. Because they have a structure. They have leadership structure that their people follow. They've metamorphosed even their spirituality to localize it to an extent is their own. The American democracy cannot work in Gambia. The Senegalese democracy cannot work in Gambia. Gambia must build their own democracy based off of their values, based off of their history, based off of who they are and what they want to be. How can we do that? How can we build a system that works for us? We must be able to talk to each other, disagree to agree. How are we going to do that? So when you look at service, the same, you cannot be a good servant of the people if you don't know them. You cannot be a good servant of the people if you don't listen to them. You cannot be a good servant of the people if you don't know what their challenges are. How can we all be good servants? It is very easy, both in an African context and in a Gambian context, to say, for example, in the Gambia, the President Barrow is not doing well, that's why the country is going nowhere. Compare that to the United States. How many of you believe that each and everything that is going on in the United States every day is done by Joe Biden alone? The Gambia has ministries, the Gambia has departments, they have institutions. We can hold all these people accountable. But the focus is on one thing and one thing alone. When I was sitting down there, I also had a conversation with somebody who just came back from Gambia. One thing he told me, he said, Samba, I took money and invested it, through my family and all that kind of stuff. All of a sudden, that family member decided to take all that money and use it for her own personal thing. And the person didn't stop, he said, but that is not Barrow though. That is a Gambian doing this to a Gambian family member. The problems we have in Africa cannot be fixed by the African president. The problems we have as black people must be fixed by us black people. No white person is going to fix it for us. And they will not pay attention to us until we fix those problems. a recent issue discussion that I also had in the community is around the just ended African Cup of Nations. Somebody was like, why is it that the major networks in the United States or in the Western world did not cover the African Cup of Nations? My answer to that posing was that we've become independent since in the 1960s. Every continent in the world has their own media outlet to the rest of the world. The only continent without one is the African continent. It's not rocket science anymore to have a building like this and have cameras that can project to Timbuktu or anywhere else in the world. But we refuse to do that again, blaming the white person and tagging along for them to give us handouts. When are we going to be independent? When will it be worth that we celebrate these days? The reason I gave all this example is to speak to our independence. Independence is not just colonialists leaving the countries they colonized in Africa. It's about our own thinking and our own perspective of the world and our communities and what we want to be and how we want to be there. Even if the whole Gambia population in the state of Wisconsin was just this group, this is enough to make the biggest impact in the state of Wisconsin. But you multiply this by maybe 1,000, is the number of Gambians alone within the Dane County area. When am I going to say I disagree with Fatu in many of the principles that I have, but I do agree with Fatu, for example, that as a black community, as an African community, as a Senegambian community, as a Gambian community, we need to come together and do something bigger than our individual selves. When am I going to be able to swallow my pride and deal with each and every one of you for the greater good? If we do not do that, no white person is going to respect us. No other black person is going to respect us. Our countries will not develop. We will never be able to watch the African Cup of Nations here from our own networks. So as we celebrate the Gambia's independence, I think it is important also to reflect on our past. Where are we? 1965 to now, where are we? Are we better than where we were in the 1960s, 70s, 80s? Like I said, democracy is a very tedious process. It's a difficult process. It's a process where you sit with somebody that you know you sincerely disagree on many policies, for example. But that you need to sit with that person and agree on a common destiny. A common destiny for your country, a common destiny for your people, a common destiny for the world. When are we going to do that? So to conclude, again, you cannot separate leadership and service. You cannot be a good leader if you're not ready to serve. You cannot serve if you're not a good leader. But one thing is very important is holding leaders accountable. Making sure they tell you exactly what they are doing for you. Making sure you hold them accountable to the things that they are telling you. And what they do for you is not you as an individual. It's you as a community. How can we do that? Is it worth celebrating our independence? Is it worth remembering that we are an independent nation politically? Yes, because now we have our destiny in our own hands. But what are we doing with it? So just want to conclude there and say thank you again to all of you. The other thing that I chatted with Fat was with the number of people here. I think it's important to freestyle it to an extent, interact and chat and ask questions and things like that. But I just want to remind the younger people who may not know when Gambia became independent. We became independent February 18 in 1965. You were not born yet. So